session in the Chanakya Talk series. I feel immense pleasure introducing our honorable guest for the session, Mr. Suresh Kumar Sharma, to all of you. Mr. Sharma is currently working as Associate Director, Abbott Healthcare Private Limited. He has expertise in the pharmaceutical and medical device industry with rich experience of more than 25 years in sales and marketing. He completed his MBA in International Business from IIFT New Delhi. He has contributed to various projects like Entrepreneurship Development Program, NTRI Karnal. He has handled various roles in his career. He was responsible for defining all the processes and workflows and all inbound and outbound activities via various mediums of communication. He has implemented new technologies for customer service and satisfaction. It is indeed a great opportunity for all of us that we have Mr. Sharma with us, and he has taken out time from his busy schedule to share his experiences with our students. Before I invite Mr. Sharma, I request our respectable director, Sir Dr. Arun Kumar Singh, to welcome Mr. Sharma to GIMS.
Good morning all. A very good morning to the guest of the day, Mr. Sharma. It's our absolute privilege to have you, sir. And it's a very special day in the beginning of this particular institution because we have named this masterclass series as a Chanakya Talk series, taking cue from the master strategist, the great Chanakya. And the purpose is to get the student imbibed with the insights and your experience, what you have earned over a period of time, and make them aware of the best practices prevalent in the industry. Now, as you know that you come from an organization which has a history of around 120 years plus and has a presence in India of around 100 years and has given a good number of innovative products to various part of, let's say, markets and even in India. So I believe you would have a wonderful insight and tips for students how exactly they can excel in their career. Now, today happens to be a very interesting day also, apart from the series we have started, because it's the very first day of our Chanakya Talk series. Today morning, we just got to know that at Harvard Business School, another Chanakya has been named as a dean. And this is in the 112 years of Harvard Business School, the second consecutive Indian being made a dean. No other country has this feat. India is the only country apart from US which has achieved this feat. So it's a remarkable day. Mr. Dr. Shrikant Dattar has been named as a dean who will take over on the 1st of January, and it's really a prestigious matter. So somehow it's a great momentous day for every one of us. Now, taking from that, I hope students will have a great learning. So over to Professor Ruchi so that we can continue with the session. Once again, a warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun sir. Now I invite Mr. Sharma to continue with the session. So we at GIMS welcome you once again to the first session at Chanakya Talk series. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you very much, Professor Ruchi, and thank you very, very much, Dr. Arun. It's equally, I'm equally privileged to be part of this great series, which I think you initiated with for students of your institute. Actually, I think it's and you correctly said before that, I think it's a great beginning by that prayer. I really loved it. It was very, very kind and nice of you. I think it's a great start for having anything on such a platform to be shared with the students. Thank you very much for that. And I think Indians across the world, I think they can't be better leader than Chanakya for sure. And I think that's been possibly genetic to this part of the world, that there are today many Indians across different geographies, different industries, different organizations who are heading. My organization also has a lot of Indians who are sitting in US and heading big operations and I think big businesses in different part of the world. So I'm finding a little difficulty in terms of sharing my screen. I think host disabled participant screen sharing. If Professor Ruchi, you can help me to do that. It is disabled, so if you can make it functional.
Yeah, sure, sir. Professor Mayank Pandey, kindly do the needful. Thank you.
Sir, you have all the right to...
yes, I got it now. Yes, I got it. Perfect. I hope my screen is visible to all. You all can see it.
Yes, sir. It is
okay.
visible.
Okay, perfect. Uh, I would once again start by saying good morning to all participants of this session. And first, I wish to extend a word of thanks to Dr. Arun for this invitation to be part of this Chanakya Talk series at your institute. And thanks to Professor Mayank and Dr. Shalini Sharma for having arranged this session. I'm equally privileged. Next, I think I certainly want to take a minute and congratulate and wish my good luck to all PGDM aspirants of James for learning and their great career ahead. My best wishes to all the students. And to set a context, what I would start saying is that I will not talk too much about any business or financial model. I'll not speak about the 4 P's or 5 P's of marketing, not about operation, not about production, manufacturing, HR concepts, or anything around technology creation and application. I think that most of the students will listen and learn a lot in next 2 years of their time, which they're going to spend in the institute with best of the expertise handling those specific functions of the business. My focus, I think, for next 40, 45 to 50 minutes, I would be primarily sharing a very pragmatic approach. When we are actually on a driver's seat in the real world, actually, how we can navigate ourselves to transform from a manager to a leader. I want to also emphasize the fact that management qualification is a must-have qualification in today's time. It had always been relevant in past, it is relevant today, and it will always be relevant in future. So to all students, I think you all taken a good decision to be by enrolling in PGDM degree course at the institute. What you're going to learn I think you're going to learn a lot in the next 2 to 3 years. The differentiators will be those who will apply that knowledge. I think that's where the world is going to be seen and applied differently. So to set the objective of this 45 minute session, what I'll do next, we will together try to explore some strategies which can basically, if put into use, will support to make a reasonable amount of a very key shift from a role of a manager to a leader in today's competitive world. And I am very sure, these are proven strategies which I have witnessed some, and most of my bosses and big corporate leaders. If you incorporate these strategies, you certainly will be well prepared to make an impact at a very high level and will surely position yourself as a genuine leader. Remember one thing, that world is deprived of leaders, and companies and corporates is hungry to look for leaders. So having said that, if we go back, is my slide good to go? I'm on the next slide. Is that perfect? If somebody can confirm that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So, 10,000 years ago, few things have not changed about leadership, right from Chanakya's time to even before and after that, even till today. Inspirations, communication, decisiveness, and visionary. These are broadly big ticket items which actually differentiates a leader from a manager or any leader from the rest of the crowd. So there's nothing new which we want to discuss or talk. It is just we want to share some of the tool which you can possibly apply to make it those.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Kindly, put your screen on the full screen mode.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I think there's some problem. So
okay, if it is not possible, then this is also fine.
There's some
no issues.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
So as I say, there's nothing new when it comes to leadership and things. So there are basic traits which are as they are and have not changed in recent times for many years. Now there are a few things which I think good for us to really look at. One is that human beings. I'm sorry, the slides are So human beings who will expand their capacities regularly, they will and learn new ideas and train others. They are going to be the winner of the future. There are some hard truths. Businesses do not compete, but leaders do. companies do not die, but leaders let them die. There is a research done at the Harvard by one of the professors. I'll share name maybe at the later stage. According to that research, there are 2% of the talent which drives 98% of the impact. And that is true socially, that is true politically, that is true in the business world or wherever you talk. And these 2% are not necessarily to be at the top. These people create a major value. So trust me, the competition today is not for the money. The competition today is not for the finance. It is for the talent. So I think considering all those things, there are few things which are very, very important and to understand the principles which are basically kind of established in the corporate world. And if we all can make effort to have those as a part of our practice in early age, I think this is going to play a huge role. So there are 4 principles which we're going to talk a little more in detail. The first is if you can spend enough time enhancing your personal growth, that means personal development. Executive presence. I think if you can learn to increase your executive presence and understand your emotional intelligence, that's I think huge role when it comes to leadership. There are strategic thinking is always going to be important. There are benefits of expanding perspective and adopting strategic scope. And certainly, I think decision making, elevating learning around the level of decision making is which is going to be always beneficial, fruitful in this competitive corporate world. So it's these are known facts, but I think most of us don't really apply this principle. But those who apply, if you look at around the people who have made their career ahead, they have, I think, made a sincere effort to apply these principles. And if you apply, this will change the trajectory of your career and moving from a manager to a leader in very exciting transformation. So what I'll do, I'll just try to simplify a little more on all these 4 principles and see if we can actually get something which can be practically possible to apply in our day-to-day learning and functioning capabilities. So to give you a little perspective, as a manager, I think when we are hardworking, we are dependable, we are capable, and these are possibly the great qualities. But it's easy to get stuck relying on these things. When you have to transform from one role to another, not necessarily from manager to leader, but from one role to another, it is basically you have to change your mindset. So the shift, we have to shift the gear in a way so that you need to adjust to the new, the way you think actually. So it's basically changing the mindset. And that shift is basically called by strategic, innovative, influential. So these words indicate that we have elevated our level from manager to leader. So once we get our mindset to these critical shifts. So what we'll do, I think it's important to understand the difference between these two basically. What is this management and what is this leadership kind of a thing? So, management is nothing but a task oriented and leadership is a practice. So when we look at management, there are a few things like management is more about knowledge gathering and leadership is about insightful. And you have a deep insight of what's happening around. Management is more of action oriented and leadership is absolutely visionary. I mean, they can see maybe 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead, 20 years ahead. Artificial intelligence, which is the talk of the town, was possibly imagined 10 years back or 15 years back. So, and those who could think, they were basically very visionary. Steve Jobs was one of the very visionary leaders, and that's what the world, as is known in the world. Management is more informed, but leadership is more influential. Management is about tactical, and leadership is about the strategic piece of it. Now, organizations depend a lot on the strong leaders to pave the way for the future. And trust me, if you're not ready, there will be someone who will be ready. And that person will step forward, take up the challenge. Just keep that in mind. So what we'll do is just spend a little time in understanding these 4 principles and see what basically we can get out of and where we can actually focus in terms of where to focus. The first is about personal growth. That's a personal development. So there are three steps which is good to practice, good to follow to increase your self personal development. The first is evaluate your strengths and opportunities, know your value, manage your impact. So in evaluation of your strength and your opportunities, it's important to know what is your most developed skill. Do you understand your emotions? Do you understand what is the motivation? Hardest of all is basically the temperament, and how these things impact your attitude and behavior. If you know all things about yourself, it is about self-awareness. The more you know about it, it's going to help you to transition from manager to leader role. I'll give you an example. Temperament. Temperament is such a critical thing. Most of us sometimes we see in offices around, or in neighbors around, or societies around. There are the people who are very angry on smaller things because their temperament is like that. In corporate world, when you broadcast your anger, it will be undermining to be seen as your ability as a calm and posed and connected leader who can work well under pressure. See, it's a natural response when our temperament goes up and down, but it works against us. So we need to know what is not working, what is working, and see that how much we can evaluate our strength and opportunities. That's one very important piece to know about ourselves when talking about self-awareness. Knowing your value. What is it that you bring on the table in a unique way that sets you apart from others? I think all of us have some kind of skills which are differentiating than others. We all are unique in ourselves. But the question is, do we know that actually? What is that value we bring to the table? Like somebody can have absolutely amazing IT skills, operating skills, but their value may be in running the business efficiently, solving problems, like helping every department work at a speed. So you're not just tech savvy, but you're innovative, you're resourceful, you're insightful. So the message here is, if you know your value, you can leverage it. But you will be able to leverage it only when you know it. So I think these are few things which comes under personal development and about increasing our awareness of ourselves. Managing our impact actually. Transformation from a manager to leader would require a huge understanding and managing your impact and to do that, the best way I tell you is generate feedback. If you can generate feedback, and that is done by various means. You can ask your colleagues to give a feedback. You can have your professor in the college. If you're working in a corporation, it can be your boss, it can be your peer group. There are different online modules available to give a feedback what your personality trait. 360-degree Conferry is another consulting organization which does a feedback analysis and assessment of an individual. You can run anonymous surveys about yourself. So there are different ways how you can basically spend time managing your impact, but it is about knowing yourself. So now the question will be how you ask actually. Asking feedback is very sometimes difficult. And the most important, it can be hard to hear the truth. Something you would not agree when feedback comes. So accepting feedback is another area I think which is very critical as a challenge which we see in lots of employees in different organizations. So that is why so many people they shy away from the rich information which can actually help them pinpoint their professional development. Because feedback mechanism, I tell you one thing with the practical experience, I tell all my colleagues that feedback mechanism is a one-way traffic. When somebody is giving a feedback, you have to quietly listen and accept it without any justification around that. Feedback mechanism is never a two-way mechanism. I think those who understand it, they get the feedback and then they try to apply that. So getting feedback is one good thing, but if you don't apply it, it is no good. So I think it's very, very important to take action to things which actually matters much. So the whole idea is about personal development is around self-awareness and doing these few things which I shared. Self-awareness, I can tell you, it is a blueprint of your leadership style. So if you don't spend enough time on self-awareness, I think it's going to be very challenging. So another point, I think, which is most talked uh, kind of a trait like EQ, emotional quotient. You have to get that in action. And I think it's today I think time is such where we have an opportunity to learn so many things at very early stage of our career when we're in a school and colleges actually. And this is a unique I think opportunity. Maybe at our age or maybe who are a little older than us, we didn't have that opportunity. But I think today, the industry exposure to a lot of management colleges is huge. I think I see a lot of us keep traveling to different institutes on basically every quarter now and then. And we share that practical aspect, practical side of the corporate world actually. It's a huge learning experience. Those who would imbibe, I think will make a difference. So how you get your emotional quotient in action? Now, I think important to understand what is EQ. It is not the IQ, what we learn in a school and college. It is how we bring those skills to the table. It is the intangible side of an equation. It's a capacity, our capacity to control and express our own emotions and to read and respond to emotions of others. I think all those leaders who know how to remain calm and poised in the middle of a crisis will make a difference. It's a manager who can deliver feedback in a way that it inspires rather than breaks the spirit of the people around. So get your EQ in action early. It's a very it speaks a lot about the natural behavior of a individual. Research has shown that EQ is a hidden difference among those who have moved up in the organization and those who have not been able to move up in the organization, despite having greatest of technical or basic functional skills. But EQ is a huge difference, which can actually accelerate and transfer people from speeding up their career. Actually, think about this. I tell you one very practical. The companies from the corporate world, I will share that companies hire people with their tangible and functional skills, but companies fire people because of their lack of intangible skills. That means the lack of EQ. EQ is a when you are a leader. EQ is it's an imperative. It's a leadership imperative, must have. So to transfer from manager to a leader, EQ is a essential foundation. I think there's a no discussion, no compromise on that, and has to be effectively put into action. So that's about, I think, about the personal development and personal growth, which you factor these 3-4 things. Work seriously, sincerely on these things. I think there's a huge opportunity for you to lead in the corporate. So another thing I think very, very important, executive presence. Most of the corporate world or people call this as the leadership X factor. And no matter what you call it, the impact of executive presence is undeniable. We all recognize it when we see it happening actually. And it is around this executive presence is basically around 3 things. It's your image, it's your demeanor, that means outward behavior, and it's your leadership. I think this is a skill which needs a mastery. It doesn't come easily. But if we know it at early age in life, possibly we can put few pieces into practice. So people who master this skill, they surely rise faster to the top ladder and also inspire great teams and work. They inspire the great teamwork, basically, and they have a huge inspiration for the royalty. I can tell you with a lot of confidence that organizations are hungry for leaders who can command this kind of admiration and respect. So I'll give you some of the tips how you can show your executive presence. First of all, you have to make sure that you sound like a leader, and you should have a strong voice. You should have excellent eye contact. Very basics, but very important. You should be able to articulate your speech actually. You should be able to increase your relatability. You should be able to work to make others at ease actually. You have to make others feel valued. Keep in mind importance of balance and make look others also very valuable. You have to boost your persuasion skills. You have to understand your audience actually. You have to use very concise and effective communication to make a point. Executive presence is remarkably powerful. One thing which plays a huge role is the communication. There is a saying in corporate world: if you cannot communicate, forget about leading. And this is so critical. Uh, I think, and all this, I think, traits which I'm talking about, it is when you want to really accelerate and your career actually in corporate. So these are, I think, very, very differentiating things and very, very important when we look out about executive presence and leadership. So another, I think, important piece is about strategic thinking. That's see, I tell you about strategy, leadership, and other key things. If you ask 100 people, I share you one example with you. I mean, as it just came to my mind, I think I feel good about talking about this at every occasion. Leadership, when you ask 100 people, we are some 20, 25 or 30 participants today. I mean, if you ask what is leadership, we will get 25, 26 definitions. So that means this is a concept which is yet actually to be established or yet getting evolved actually to get the exact real definition of leadership. So I have, so considering all of that, that everybody give their own definition, I thought, let me create my definition. I will have my way of defining what this leadership is. So what I did, so I tell you my definition of leadership. To me, leadership is an power or an authority to do what you speak. I think it is nothing beyond that. Because I don't trust because something is written and published by, I think, certainly knowledgeable guys. I mean, I have a lot of respect for those. But if I look at, I read some books on leadership, they say leadership with high integrity, moral values, ethics, and visionary, this and that, which is, I think, certainly basic. But today, if you look around, I find a difficulty in terms of finding a leader who is highly ethical, highly moral. There are many. I don't deny that there are none. But like the president of United States of America, Donald Trump or Obama or Nixon, or you go back in history, by definition, president of United States of America is a world leader. But the traits of leadership which is written in the book, do we actually see that? Maybe not. So I think it is not about, because everybody have their own life of living, personal life. But when it is leadership is about people, it is about others actually. So if leaders cannot do what they speak, then where will public or corporate employees will fall on actually? So to me, leadership is a power, it's an authority to do what you speak. I think that's a one definition which I would think about leadership. Now, coming back to the strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is a basically panoramic view. All leaders, if you look around, they have a very broad panoramic perspective inside of the tight focus. And so instead of the tight focus, they step back to take a step back and look at the broader view. So in terms of transitioning from manager to leader, there's a need to expand the scope significantly. And that can be driven when we stretch scope to learn about some of the very, very important things in this whole strategic thinking perspective. So what I see, there are so many. What I've done, I have picked up based on my experience and what actually we do on daily basis in our in a corporate world. There are 4 things which are very important to develop and build the strategic thinking perspective. The first is the organization perspective. So tomorrow you're going to be working in a different organizations, in different roles, with a different set of people. So important will be that you'll be busy in a lot of day-to-day activities. Your bosses will make sure that you are busy in day-to-day work. You have to find time to shift some of your energy from your day-to-day operation to considering organization's overall business plans. That is what is an organization perspective. You need to look for opportunities where you can participate in various projects, short-term, long-term, wherever you can participate. You need to look for those opportunities. It doesn't matter if it's a big company or small company. Every organization has a plan to expand and grow. have a perspective, and know how what you can contribute. So get that bigger organization perspective. So it's a huge subject, organization perspective. You can talk for hours, but these are broad, I think, things I could pick at this stage. The second, I think, the market perspective. The industry you work in, there'll be X kind of a size and scale of the market for that industry. Make sure you have a solid understanding of your company market positions, your market understanding, and knowing what the competition, their relative size, their market shares, their value propositions. So there's a lot of amount of emphasis has to be made on understanding the market perspective if you want to build a strategic thinking. Actually, then I think each organization has a customer. So customer perspective, I think there has to be sincere effort made for a deep dive into the minds of the customer service. You need to put yourself in their habitat, actually, in the customers. You need to behave like a customer and then understand their perspective. So by that knowledge, you will be able to anticipate maybe the changing consumer needs as you move in organization, and you can propose some great ideas. You can throw some absolutely amazing, innovative, strategic thinking and some propositions, which will be very differentiating than many other in the organization. And then I think very important for a building any strategic perspective is your financial context. You need to think about the broader financial implications of the expenditure. I'm sure your institute does it, my company does it, the whole industry does it. And there is a huge implication of every expenditure which an organization does. So changing the magnitude of your thought process view on the budget issues, it is going to send a clear signal you about you that you are ready for the success. I tell you, money and financial matters and models, they attract everybody. If you can save for a company few $1 million, I think you are the sweet boy of the company. Actually. So by doing so, I think people around you will notice you, and they will think like you are a real leader, actually. So these are then organization perspective, market perspective, customer perspective, and financial context. Once you build your understanding around these things, you will have a strategic kind of an thought process which will be built over a period of time. So I would encourage you to, I tell you another thing, which when we were in college, in those 2.5 years, we would have studied some 150 or 160 case studies. We had actually enacted as the CEOs or the big managers of those case studies. Those are the opportunities which when you're going to spend next 2 years or in the institute, you will be undergoing a lot of case studies. These are the real kind of a situation where you can actually play a role. You can build these skills to navigate and build your strengths. And when you're out of the college, I think you will certainly be well placed than many other peers in the market. So these are important things and not to be ignored. Important to learn to innovate. The first thing to know is that innovation is a mindset. It is not an item which you can schedule for a day. It is a mindset. Innovative leaders, they think in the future tenses. Innovative leaders know how to focus on opportunity. So if you put these perspective into as a part of your day-to-day learning process, I'm sure, and you apply those into the case studies which you're going to do in college with the help of your professors, I think it's going to help you build strategic thinking, and you might come out with a different strategies once the case study is being discussed. The final strategy which an organization adopted may not be the right strategy. You could come out with a new idea which can be open for discussion with your professors, and you get some and other innovative ideas. So these are the great learning to build and make yourself ready for different role in future. Another important thing, I think, which is critical, I think, decision-making capability of a manager or a leader or a owner in a house or a family owner or whatever you call. Decision-making is a critical piece when you work in a corporate. I think not taking decision is the biggest crime than the failure, actually. So I'm sure some of you would have seen the movie Moneyball. So in the Moneyball, there's a baseball team with a minimum talent, but they achieved the maximum success. And all of that was just because of smart decisions, actually. So it's a decision matrix. You know, this that just always being made in a certain way doesn't mean that that is the only best way. So look around those information, knowledge available on the internet, in the books, which can help you build that decision-making capabilities. I think this is a non-negotiable skill, and if you can spend time understanding, learning, and applying those decision-making capability, it's a huge play in the market. The leaders basically approaches choices and options in a very different way. They don't obsess a fear of making mistakes. So now I tell you one thing, that how you can actually improve or learn to have a effective decision making. So there are again a couple of things. I'll share some of those things which can help you to really put that decision making process in practice. When you are on a job to take a decision, I think always consider the wide range of possibilities based on the broader perspective. Have your mind open. So have a look at all kind of possibilities in a situation. Spend enough time to analyze the impact of the decision on the company, on the bottom line. Bottom line is the profit, on the top line is the revenue, on the customers, on the employees and the competitors. I think you analyze those things before you take a decision. And you should always be aware when to act and when to pause. It is not a free flow kind of a highway where you can just keep on driving. It is important to understand when to act, when to pause. And most of the leaders, I tell you, the last one, which I say, they have a very structured method to guide thinking. You understand this cost benefit analysis, which actually help assess the financial feasibility of a potential choice or the initiative the leaders consider. Risk analysis, which I'm sure that you're going to study in your finance subject, if it is very beginning of your of the education. A lot of model you're going to study in next 2 years. So risk analysis, which help potential threats and challenges, the decision tree, visualization of the decision and possible consequences. They consistently smart decisions by asking right questions. So leaders, are careful when they take a decision. They make sure that they have the right questions in place. So what we have done, we have discussed about these are 4 basically things which can actually support a manager to a leader in a corporate world. So to share with you, this was absolutely amazing to share this smaller perspective. And what I will say, I'll give you a couple of suggestions actually. As I'm just coming close to see the leadership and what can drive. These are some of the topics which are basically can be discussed and spoken and shared for a very, very long time. We had 45 minutes close to. I'm sorry if I'm taking too much of time, but coming to the end. So there are a couple of suggestions I tell you to which can differentiate and will certainly be a huge difference. Develop a habit of reading. You should spend reasonable amount of time studying books, magazines, newspaper, economic times, financial magazines, in addition to what your school, college curriculum is. That's mandatory. But other than that, I think building the external world perspective and knowledge is a huge, I think, value when you work in a management college. So enhance your knowledge about the world dynamics, business, social, political, very, very important what's happening around the world in terms of politically, in terms of economic models, financial models, stock markets, and a variety of other things. I think the driver for many has been the discipline, and consistency. These are, I think, very proven strategies. Those who are very disciplined and consistent individual certainly make the way. Next to years in your stay in the college, I think you're going to have many more lectures, many more sessions by professor. Try to apply what you learn actually. And communication is a non-negotiable when you work in a corporate, when you work in the big companies, when you have very aspirational candidate. I think communication skill is a mandatory skill to have in today's time. As I said earlier, there is a saying in the corporate world: if you cannot communicate, forget about leading. So these are my couple of suggestions. And I think another thing which I would share with you, I'll give you 3 leaders' name. And in addition to your day-to-day learning, if you can also find time to listen to, there are huge stuff available on YouTube and internets about their perspective. Professor Ramacharan, Harvard, he's an Indian from Kanpur. I'm a big fan of these 3 leaders. That's the reason I thought to share with you. And so there's a huge stuff available. If you go to LinkedIn, there is a LinkedIn learning modules available. You can listen to Professor Ramcharan. I think it'll be kind of a 2 MBAs. One you will do in the college, and second what you're going to learn from how to be in the corporate world, how to lead, what are the caution point, how you can manage your performance, and add on skills and add on other traits. I think there's a huge information available on the net. Sanjeev Mehta is a Unilever CEO. There's a recent webinar which he conducted, I think some 2 months back. I was part of that webinar. Amazing, I think, speaker, amazing perspective on various things. You should listen to him. Vineet Nair, he is an HCL CEO. He has written a book. I'm sure some of you would have read it. Customer first and employee first and customer second. And this is a book which created a huge, I think, interest in the market among readers. So these are the 3 basically leaders I'm personally a big fan of. I try to pick few things. You won't believe, every day I make sure that at least 45 minutes to 1 hour I spend listening to one of these 3 leaders. And there are many others, but these are 3 leaders I follow on Instagram, I follow on LinkedIn, I follow on every social and other platform available. So, so with that, I think I would say that I have really, it's been very quick. I think 50 minutes, how it has gone very quickly. There's a lot which we could possibly speak, but I think it was absolutely amazing to talk to all of you, and it's great to speak to you. I hope you have you liked some kind of my perspective on how we can build and help ourselves to become a better leader from a manager. As I hope as you like listening as much as I enjoyed sharing my perspective on the real world. So I'll be very happy to take if there are any questions or anybody wish to share or ask anything. So that's from my side. And thank you very much once again for the opportunity given. And I'm very privileged to be part of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session and sharing the insights of corporates with our students. I'm sure our students are highly, benefited and motivated by your words. I request the students, if you have any questions, please, you can, ask your queries or you can even post it in the chat box. Any student having any query, please? Okay, one of the student wants to know. Okay, sir, one student wants to know, are all managers good leaders?
So, leadership is a very different than managing things. As I said, it is leadership is a practice. I don't say that all managers are good leaders, but they all have potential to be good leaders, and they all can become good leaders. And it is about be conscious of, I think, their day-to-day actions, and ensuring that which are mandatory traits. See, leadership is about others. If you have that attitude about helping others, as I said in one of the slide, if you can make others valued, you can guide them, you can coach them, you can mentor them, you can be with them. I think these are few. See, there are clear differentiation between manager and a leader. But I strongly believe all manager has a potential to be leader. It is just about getting that perspective and being a little sincere about it and being disciplined. I'm sure some of you will become great leaders as you move out of your college.
Thank you so much for the answer, sir. I hope, Sandhya, your question is answered. Any other questions any student wants to raise? You can unmute yourself and raise your query. Okay, one of the student named Neeraj, he wants to know, sir, that leadership is like inherited or it is inbuilt, or the leadership quality can be, acquired also.
So, this is a question which everybody will have the different opinion. And if you actually ask me,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing which is except the genetic and structure of our human nature.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else can be acquired. So that's I don't think it is genetic. Nor he see there are people born with the gifted people actually.
Right.
But I will not say that leaders cannot be made after we take birth. So I think each individual has a potential to be leader. It is about, I think, right coaching, right direction, right guidance, right mentorship, right. There is another saying I share with you. We all become what we read and the kind of people we spend our time with. If you want to be leader, whatever we want to become, we need to make sure our readings and learnings around that, and we are surrounded by those kind of a set of people actually. So my personal belief is that anybody can become leader, except I cannot change my parents. So there are genetic structure which I've acquired, which I cannot change, but everything else I can change. It is based on what I want to change. So Neeraj can certainly be one of the very good leader.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Any other question? Students, please be free to raise any query if you have or anything. You see, you will not get this opportunity again. Okay, so like if you have anything, okay, one question. Aditya wants to ask something. What are the qualities needed for marketing stream? I believe he wants to ask, what are the personality traits which are required for the marketing stream?
So you know marketing is a function which has a lot of interconnection. So if I talk about traits, it's a function. So somebody has to focus more on a functional competency of a function. So if I list on I think the list goes very long, but somebody who's aspiring to be a marketing expert, as I said, it is about communication. Actually, it is about talking about your product. So you need to develop basic or maybe advanced level of communication skills. That is the first trait. Somebody who's willing to be as a marketing expert. So another thing which is very critical role in terms of marketing in corporate world, which I see, it is about a lot of interpersonal things. Marketing is not in silos. It is. It has a huge collaboration to be done with the finance. It has a huge role to play with the sales. It has a huge role to play with the regulatory environment of a country, and it has a huge impact on the quality function of an organization. So people, in addition to communication, has an ability for the interpersonal relationship skills. I think that's another very important criteria. Third thing, I think, which is another critical piece when it comes to marketing is it is a dependable kind of a function. You eventually have to get things done whatever you want to do in practical term has to be done by somebody else. In any organization, you would never see a marketing function has a 30 people or 40 people or 50 people. There are always 5 people, 2 people or 7 people. But in sales, there are 100 people. So the marketing is a kind of an office job largely. And so they create strategies and want sales guys to execute it. And it's a very, so people need to have that skill to get work done. And second, as I did discuss about strategic thinking, though it's an important perspective of leadership, but they need to be able to pursue larger organization to think strategically, innovate strategically, come out with the great ideas which can be put into practice. There is always saying in marketing, uh, you don't know what works actually. That is why marketing people, they do everything. And there is never enough money with anybody and everybody. There is always limited resources. So understanding of the financial capacity, as I said about the expenditure in an organization. So these are another financial capabilities which those marketing experts need to have. And top, as I said, hardest of all, if you cannot communicate what you want to market and what you want to execute in an organization, it's a very hard job to do. It's a thankless job sometimes, I think, but at the same time, huge value proposition. They are the one who can actually drive a lot of things in an organizations. So these are basic traits, I think, which will help people to be a great marketing experts. Innovations, strategic thinking, ideas, a variety of other things.
Okay, thank you so much. Ajit Rai wants to know that if somebody moving from post manager to leader, what kind of challenges he would face as a leader?
If somebody moving from post manager to leader.
I think
I tell you, as I discussed, manager to leader is a transformation. It is a process. If you have spent adequate time learning skills which are mandatory to be a leader, and if you have done the transition by the learning, there is not basically challenges. Challenges are then day-to-day business challenges. Whether you understand organization perspective well, whether you understand your customer perspective well, you understand your people well, and you have a good emotional quotient which you can apply and work with people. So remember one thing, uh, leadership is always about others. It is never about yourself. If it is, and manager, I don't say managers are about themselves, they're also about others, but leadership is non-negotiable. I mean, it is always about others. So in terms of challenges, I think if the transition is smooth, transition has happened with the adequate amount of learning skill set, there's hardly any challenge. But leaders, I tell you a couple of things which are important, I think, from a this question perspective in general. So leaders have to be really amazing in terms of forecasting things. Their ability to, I think, gauge and understand how the market is going to behave. How political system of a country, like in US today, the elections are going on. India, US trade deals are stuck. They're just waiting these elections to get over. So people, the leaders, political leader, if I talk about, even corporate, my company has certain products to be launched in India, but there are discussions going on in terms of this India-US trade deal. So it is, the leaders need to, I think, should be able to visualize how things are going to be going to be in action. So huge, I think, the biggest challenge I think leaders have in today's time is evaluating the external environment or which is going to be playing in the future. So I think ability to think is a big differentiation among leaders versus managers. Hope it helps, Ajit.
okay. Thank you so much, sir. Any other question? Any other student wants to ask? I don't think any. Okay, that's it. If anybody wants to ask any question, please post it in the chat box, or even you can unmute yourself and ask question. I think there are no more questions to be asked. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, one student has raised a query. Uh, Rahul Kumar says, "Good morning, sir. As we are talking about corporate, can you please tell me the most dangerous trait in leaders or manager career?"
Dangerous trait in leaders or a manager career. Trait is basically the character. If you are a selfish individual, it's going to be very dangerous. It's not going to be dangerous for that individual, but for the team member, but for the organization, but for the market, but for the business, but for anything. There's nothing dangerous otherwise when you are a leader, actually. So I think I don't think if I could understand this question correctly, dangerous trait. It just, I mean, if you are it is too obsessed with yourself, then you're not a leader. I mean, if you by default or happen to be a kind of your boss is a big fan of yours, and you got there just not because of competency or because of some other reasons, that's a dangerous for the organization for the long term. Actually, leadership is never short term. Dangerous is only if you're too obsessed with yourself, because then it'll be your interests more than organization. Remember one thing, organizations are perpetuals. I will get retired. A lot of people have already got retired. A lot of people have come in. This is my third company. People come and go, but organizations stay intact. My company is 100, as Dr. Arun said, it's more than 1 century in this part of the world. So many people have gone and come. So organizations are perpetuals. People move here and there. So it is all about people who have made this company last such a long time and have such a leadership position in market, and it's an ongoing process actually. So because the leaders and employees who worked for, they were never about themselves. They were always looking at that when they move out, they handhold and transfer the legacy to people who can take this forward actually. So the dangerous is only when you're too obsessed, you do something non-compliant, and you put organization at risk. You do something which is not permitted by local government laws, regulations, which is not permitted by processes set and compliance processes in place by the company. That can be very dangerous. I mean, to add to that question of Rahul.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I hope, Rahul, your question is being answered. Okay, once again, thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. Now I invite Professor Mayank Pandey, Head PGP, to propose vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ruchi. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, honorable dignitaries virtually present here, most valued guests, respected director, sir, faculty colleagues, and my dear students. On behalf of GIMS and on my personal behalf, I feel immense pleasure to take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to our guest speaker, Mr. Suresh Kumar Sharma Associate Director, Abbott Healthcare Private Limited, who accepted our invitation on a very short notice and spared his valued and valuable time to grace this Chanakya Talks corporate speaker series with his worthy address. He rightly talked about strategies to make a vital shift from manager to leader. He explained almost everything. He touched upon each and everything. He talked, from personal development to executive presence to strategic thinking to decision making, and he very rightly touched upon each and every perspective which a manager and leader supposed to look into. And the most important part he touched upon, that is suggestions that are key to success. He very rightly suggested uh, develop habit of reading. That is very much important for a leader, because without understanding, no one can be leader and lead a team. Enhance your knowledge. That is again very important. Discipline, consistency, apply what you learn, and last is communication skills. So these are the key to success. Thank you, sir, for enlightening our students at a very first stage as they started their professional study in last month only, and they are here to go. And means initially they will be manager and they will lead to leader. I take this opportunity to express my deep regards and gratitude to Sri Rajesh Gupta ji, Chairman, and Sri Gaurav Gupta ji, Vice Chairman, GIMS, for always encouraging and providing opportunity to organize such events. I would especially thank our respected director, sir, Professor Dr. A.K. Singh, for his motivation and unconditional support. My deep sense of appreciation goes to Mr. Swadesh Singh, Head Branding and Promotions, and my dear faculty colleagues for back-end support, and special thanks to Professor Ruchi for front-end support. I offer my sincere thanks to my dear students for being with us. I also express the same feeling of gratitude to each one who directly or indirectly contributed in this event. Thank you all. Thank you for being with us. Thank you so much, and over to Professor Ruchi.
Thank you so much, Professor Pandey. Okay, here we comes to the end of the session. I hope the session was highly enjoyed and appreciated by all. Once again, I thank Mr. Sharma for sparing time for our students and accepting the invite for the Chanakya Talk series, first guest lecture. Thank you so much. Thank you all, and hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was privilege. Thank you very, very much. And my best wishes to all the students and good luck everyone.
Thank you, sir, once again, on behalf of the GMS family. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye. So we can just leave now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.